Hi, everyone. We are back. This is Rex Saldana,
And this is Mark Stevens.
and we are now going to do a podcast for you talking about Savage, the home video album released by Eurythmics in, I believe it was 1988. Yes, and released on VHS, Laserdisc, and other formats. Groundbreaking home video album, a video for every song on the album. Mark, so when you first heard about that being released or that it was coming, what did you think? I think we were all like thrilled to death that we'd be getting a whole video album from Eurythmics, but
Yeah, it was that, but it didn't prepare you for the actual release, because it was extraordinary and was widely critically acclaimed.
yeah,
It's just an exceptional piece. I always just sort of think that the Savage album, watching it is the way to do it. And I wouldn't say that about a lot of things, but just it encapsulates everything that's great about Eurythmics and their videos and their music. So well done.
yes. And the track listing differs on the home video than it does from the album, which I remember at first for me that was a bit unusual because I was used to hearing the album in a certain order. But I think, of course, the videos work more cohesively in the way they had them arranged. I am surprised that, they often talk of Beethoven, I Need a Man, and Chill as a trilogy, but yet on the home video album, they separate Chill
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
put that down towards the end. But that actually makes sense because the video is sort of like the real, the culmination of sort of the ordeal she's going through and the recognition of moving forward and all that. So it does fit at the end. But I just thought that was a little interesting that it was a trilogy on its own, but yet not on the home video album.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Um,
Now,
and you get so much more than just the tracks, and I think we'll talk about that. But
right,
um,
right. Now, Sophie Muller directed every video on the album except for two. Um, Shame was directed by Steve Graham, and I've Got a Lover Back in Japan was directed by Chester Dent and John Stewart, which I believe is Dave's brother. I could be wrong about that. So once again, they worked with Sophie, and I think what we'll do is just go track by track and talk about our impressions of the videos.
well, yeah. Let's say too. Let's just say up front the absolute terrible thing it is that this has never made it to a proper DVD, a Blu-ray release, or even a digital release.
Correct.
It was on Laserdisc, and I have the Laserdisc
Yes,
back in the day, which of course was quite the.
Did you have a Laserdisc player?
Yes, I did.
Me too. Me too. I got that specifically just for Eurythmics' greatest hits and Savage.
Savage, and I eventually got We Two Are One Too and the Sweet Dreams. But literally about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I had to order. I bought a new Laserdisc player on eBay because the one I had stopped working. And it wasn't cheap. And
Right.
literally, I used to, years ago, I had movies and stuff too. But over the years, I had gotten rid of them because, really wasn't much of a point, But the Eurythmic stuff, you couldn't get anywhere else on that kind of quality
Right.
device.
Right.
Not that it compares to Blu-ray or anything at this point, but it was superior to VHS, of course. Anyway.
When I first launched my website, Eurythmics Video Visionaries, usually Mark is the one that plugs it. This time I'm plugging myself. All the screen captures I used for the videos were from the Laserdisc.
Oh yeah. Wow.
And at the time, Laserdiscs could pause very well on scenes, and you could, I'm not finding it as easy these days with streaming and DVD players to pause and get images quite as well as we used 2 years ago, which is interesting. You think it would be getting better. But yeah, was able to get a lot of great images off the Laserdisc. And in fact, a lot of the images on my site are still those original ones from then.
Yeah.
But yes, I remember I had all those Laserdiscs as well, including Diva on Laserdisc
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Live in Central Park on Laserdisc.
So you really don't think about it, but Laserdisc had quite the life. It did, and then
Well, I discovered it like sort of towards the tail end. It started picking up in the mid '80s and kind of petered out around the mid to late '90s.
yeah,
And I sort of got involved in the early '90s, so I was on the tail end of it. But
yeah. So, but well, on the video album, uh, before we even talk about Beethoven, you've got that great opening scene with Annie, and she's putting the flowers in the vase, and something behind her is that giant painting of the stag, the deer.
yeah,
And I was looking that up, and there's a famous painting called "The Monarch of the Glen," and it's actually housed at the uh, Scottish National Gallery in Edinburgh. But and you see later on in White Eyed Girl, there's another version of it on that wall, like a black and white. But I looked it up and I was trying to compare. It's not actually that famous painting. So it's kind of a knockoff. But I think it was a famous, the original was it was reproduced a great deal. It came out in 1851 or something. And so, and it's always fascinated me because there's two versions of that painting in this video album.
yeah.
And so kind of a curious to me is what was the reasoning for that to be there, and all the clothes.
Well,
There has to be a reason. I don't know if there is or not.
I'll give you my impression. My dad was a hunter growing up, and he used to love all those kind of paintings of stags and wildlife and stuff, like that one. And I just kind of took it as it's like it's something common, like it's just something that the common man might have in their home because I don't know, they like to hunt or they don't have the best taste in art. I don't know. The monarch of the stag is probably a very famous and well done painting. So I don't want to like take away from that.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of kitschy, I think, to have that kind of art around the house, especially if you're of a certain type, especially if, maybe in the video, they're clearly not rural dwelling people. They are in the city. But I think it's meant to convey commonality or something. Is that a word, commonality?
I think you're probably right. So it's interesting. But, I love that opening scene. I love the music. It just pours into.
It's very aggressive. It's almost like a steel door opening and shutting. Boom, bang, boom, bang. Yeah. It really gets your attention, and it's quite edgy.
Yeah, it is. So, and another, moment back then when a lot of people, Eurythmics, Peter Gabriel, they were doing a lot of those things with videos, and so that it's a great opening right into Beethoven and Annie on the couch speaking those lines.
Talking like a mature woman to an audience of teenagers.
Yeah.
I always found that very interesting. I thought it was so adult for its concept was so adult and probably went over the heads of a lot of children. We discussed these similar themes in our previous podcast on all the videos. I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time. Well, for the folks who didn't hear the other podcast, we will talk more about Beethoven. I think one of their finest videos, and all her personas are right there. It's so off kilter and crazy. And I think one of my favorite parts in the video is when her little girl persona pulls the records out of the out of the shelf, and it cuts right before they actually fall. But it's such a brilliant little cut there. And
I mean, the alter ego male in the gown that she ends up wearing, such a fascinating character. And you really, I think you could watch that. If you've never seen it, you could watch that and actually miss him, or he's so well hidden, or, not all the time. They're in the kitchen once, but at the dining room table, just there in the background.
Mhm.
I would just think I would love to know what David Lynch, the director, would have thought about this video if he ever saw it, and because
I'm sure he would have admired it. Yes.
yeah, it's very Lynchian to me.
Mhm.
All the
Mhm.
different personas and what's happening there, and yeah,
And another scene I love is when she's chopping up the vegetables to the beat of the music. Whack, whack, and or she's putting the. The best part is when she's taking the corn cob holders and stabbing the corn on the cob, and not even putting them on the sides.
no, it's still, yeah. There's madness happening in front of you in that video.
And then we have something in that video that I don't think we have in any other Eurythmics video: product placement. Isn't there Ajax in the bathroom?
Yeah, I don't know that they're worried about those things as much back
I
in
don't know.
the days.
Well, I think they were aware of it. Then I think they chose to leave it because housewives do use Ajax.
Yeah,
And it adds a little bit of realisticness to it.
I was,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it, and there, I think we said this before too, but there were two distinct, different videos for Beethoven, not different, but different scenes cut. There was a shorter version, and Annie, and that one, she's in the bathroom more, and she's staring at this toothbrush,
Right.
and there's just these great insanity scenes of Annie really going to town on her acting chops.
There's an interesting thing at the end of the video where she's prancing away from the apartment block in her wig, and there must have been a big breeze that came up, because I noticed she has to kind of tilt her head down a little bit to help so that the wig doesn't kind of like come off a little bit.
Yeah,
I have no idea if that was intentional or not, and but I've always thought that was kind of amusing that she had to do that. But okay, well, let's move to "I Need a Man." We've talked about this one in the other podcast, but I mean, it's just raw. It's there. I love it. I was thrilled to see. Well, when she screams at the beginning, I just love that. The first time I heard it, I thought, "Wow, this is great." I
yeah.
thought this isn't going to get played on U.S. radio, but hey, it's great.
But the interesting thing is, isn't the promotional edit in the U.S. the promo edit? It starts with the scream.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it rings a bell. Yeah.
which but is a kind of strange thing for a
What do you
radio
mean without the drum beat at the beginning?
without the drum beat, which doesn't really make sense. You'd almost think that the drum beat would be more accessible for radio but who knows?
Well, maybe they thought that a song ending and then the other one starting with the scream would get people's attention.
Perhaps, yeah.
But
I was researching this, and I found an article where Annie describes this character, and I want to read it because it's really good. This is a quote from Annie, and I don't know if I know what magazine or newspaper this is from, but quote Annie here. She's a sort of dream goddess, sex kitten gone wrong. She's a parody of what men have found attractive in women. She becomes a parody of herself and ultimately looks like a man in drag. So that's a quote from Annie Lennox. Of course, we know that, and she's talked about that, and we know that it's supposed to be a woman dressed as a man, dressed as a woman.
Right.
Again. So.
And then you have the added dimension of Annie Lennox with her short hair already, but she's a woman. So it's like she's not a man, but yet she's got short hair like a man, and then she's putting on this wig where she looks like a woman, but yet she also looks like a man. So the whole thing is just so subversive and brilliant, and I think went over a lot of people's heads. Maureen, our dear deported friend Maureen, used to say, "Wow, Rex, you really love that song and video, don't you?" I would be like, "Yeah, I love it so much," and she always got a big kick that I love that so much.
Was Savage the video album shown in theaters? Am I remembering that right? Didn't some people get a chance?
I don't think so. I know Brand New Day was. That was
Brand New Day. I think no, you're right. I think
that had a very brief theatrical run. Maureen saw it in L.A. in a small theater. Yeah.
Interesting too on that the video album, what you just said, again, I think it just goes back to, how important this video album was, because I don't think, other than You Have Placed a Chill in My Heart, these were not radio friendly singles that they released. I think Beethoven's a great song, but I don't know that it worked for radio. I think I Need a Man is a great song. I don't know that it worked for radio, because there's a lot to it to take in. A pop song, you've got to figure that out. And there's a lot going on in those lyrics, in that performance.
Yeah.
And you get more of that by seeing it. And, it's not always the case, but I think you really do in this.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an album-oriented rock station in the Bay Area, here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they actually played "I Need a Man" back in the day. I mean, this is the station that would play Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, the hard rock stuff. They were supportive. They were very supportive of Missionary Man, and then when "I Need a Man" came out, I thought, oh, they won't touch this. They played it, and all the time too, and it got good response.
Yeah.
It helps, it has that Stonesy guitar lick, and it's kind of raw, and I think that's what helped it work in that kind of. It probably worked better in an AOR format than like a top 40 radio, I would think. But it was always a thrill to hear that on the radio when you did, because it was so non-radio. And you could argue that about a lot of Eurythmics songs were, especially in the U.S., were not really radio friendly.
Yeah. We've talked about it before, but, that Annie famously had this image of an androgynous person. And, and we talked about how, Come Be Yourself Tonight and Revenge and stuff. She still had, I guess some people would say, but that people had sort of stopped talking about it. But then with Savage, she takes that to a whole other level with all of these things, and an in-your-face kind of direction on that.
It's like the more feminine she got on Savage, the more masculine it actually was, because of the whole duality of the imagery and all that. It's quite brilliant, I mean, it's such a great way to have that kind of imagery, but without kind of selling out or being cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A la, Samantha Fox or something.
Samantha Fox. Oh my God. Haven't thought about her in a while. But so you want to say anything else about I Need a Man, or are we going to move on to Heaven?
I just really love Sophie Muller's direction on that, and I love the frenetic camera work, and it's just brilliant. Yeah, we can move on. The next video on the album is Heaven.
And I think that plays well as the third track, because
it's sort of I think it's kind of a bridge, and the imagery kind of shows like, okay, here's what this tart has this tart who has been mistreated, sort of like what she's up to, hanging out in her hotel, getting drunk, driving around. I've heard some interpretations say that she's in celebrity situations in that video. That's an interesting take to me. You don't see anybody else in these videos with her. You get a brief glimpse of Dave, I think, when he's driving the car or something. But usually the imagery to me looks like she's solitary. She's stumbling down the hallways, drunk, alone. She appears to be in a hotel room eating alone. So I really think it's all about just like, okay, I rebelled. I got out. Okay, no, here I am. So now what do I do?
For me watching it, and I think to fans who were very accustomed to Annie's videos and Dave's videos, Savage is a very funny. While it's dark, there's so many funny elements to it, and Heaven is one of those. She's stumbling, and when she hits the wall down the and there's a boom, when she hits a wall or hits a door, and it is that just there's it's one of those things. It's the beauty of art. Or am I supposed to be do I find this funny? Am I supposed to be uncomfortable if I find this funny? But and there are moments in Heaven where she's absolutely beautiful, and she's got this smile that
Well, when she's sitting in the hotel room eating the food with the chopsticks, and there's that smile, and you're right. I mean, she's just beautiful. It's just so beautiful. She looks. I think you hit on something there, Mark. I think that's maybe the one point in the video where the real her shines through, or the real character shines through, and not the crazy character, not the scorned character. Almost, like you're seeing the real person.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was a lovely shot of her. And yeah, you're right. She looked very beautiful there.
Yeah. So, and of course, Heaven is a strange little song on Savage, the album. It's mostly instrumental with some overdubs in it. But it's always been a favorite of mine, I have to admit. I love that song.
I like it too, yeah. I've always liked it. I always thought it was a good little interlude in the album. And, it just works. Sonically, it works well, and it's sort of like a pastiche of all the sounds or something, that you've already heard, the little spoken things and all that, and to me, it's sort of like maybe like her, just kind of her mind, just going a little crazy, or just
Yeah, it's an interesting piece, and the thing is, and then so you've had Beethoven, and you've had I Need a Man, and you've had Heaven. And then the video album moves into Shame, which is one of the videos, of course, that you mentioned was not directed by Sophie Muller, and is a totally different video. Everything about it doesn't fit in here, but it's number 4 on the video album. So what do you think of that?
It almost appears to be a kind of an aside from the rest of the album.
Almost right? Yeah.
Well, I always took Shame as, I always felt like Shame was like, not that it wasn't part of the Savage album, but it was different from the rest of the album. It was almost like it was a track that was meant to make a comment on what the whole album was about, and about consumerism, and about excess, and about artificiality, and that was its purpose. I think it was like, okay, this is kind of what we're talking about here. Yeah. And I don't think at least I took it as like, you're not supposed to look at it like this is part of the cohesiveness of the album. I really felt it was like a kind of a summation, or like an explanation of why did we do this album, or what is this album all about? Yeah. The fact that it's played so soon on the home video, that's interesting, Mark. I hadn't really thought about that. What does that say?
Of course, it's the one where Dave is prominent. He is just as visible. He and Annie are, in each scene, because they're, hugging one another in essence.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make. It with the two of them, you see them both, and they're both in their pure state, and it's almost like puts a halt to the whole theatricality of Savage for a moment.
It's almost a pause. Yeah.
It's a pause. It's like. Yeah. We're doing this theatrical thing, but here's this concept, and this is really the underlying thing. And what is, I think, most important is the artificiality of consumerism, the commercialization of the music industry. We loved you, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. We loved you. It's like where it used to be more about the music and the art instead of the commerce.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's another good, all of them so far, and continued will be. Annie was never as good with lyrics as she was on Savage. Some of the lyrics on Savage are just they stick with you. It's a you can quote them. Not that you can't. Of course you can.
I need someone to crack my skull. I need. Someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on, man. This is just great stuff. And Shame is one of those. It's chock full of great imagery in the lyrics itself. Again, I don't know that it was a great single. It starts out very slow, and this was late 1987. And think about what was on the radio.
Right.
And Eurythmics are doing their thing, as they always do. Uh,
I've read a lot of critics call Shane one of their finest singles.
I think it is considered a great song by them.
Yeah,
I don't know what
composition
radio
is.
thought of it. Did it fit in that? But it's a great song, and you can't help but you get and the bridge on that. And it's a beautiful video.
I think the placement of it on the album seems more conducive to its theme than maybe where it was placed on the home video. I'm not sure if anywhere it was placed on the home video would have mattered. I think it's so visual, and the statement it makes works so well that it probably could have landed up anywhere in the video.
Yeah,
maybe not as the very last video, but anywhere somewhere in the middle or something. So yeah.
But it moves directly into one of my most favorite videos.
I know you love this, yeah.
Which is "Wide Eyed Girl," and
a great song too.
Yeah, but I don't think that is necessarily a favorite song with some fans. But
really? Oh, I love it.
At the end of that, I just think it's fantastic. The video is fantastic. The song is. I can listen to it. I turn it up loud when I'm playing that song.
Do you think Lola watches that and thinks that's her in the video?
I don't know. Maybe she should remake that. But
I wonder if Lola was that rebellious. Did she run off to Rome
or was Annie that rebellious? That's the thing. But great video. Hilarious. Again, I go back to it's hilarious. And you're supposed to laugh in this one at the beginning, at least. She's there, with her boyfriend, and they kiss, and then suddenly she's pregnant. She's completely pregnant.
It's almost like a Monty Python. I don't want to say who was that British guy from the 80s who had that kind of ribald TV show? Was it Benny Allen or
Benny Hill?
Benny Hill. I'm thinking of Dave Allen. British folks will know who Dave Allen is, but Benny Hill. It's almost like a Benny Hill sketch with the way she pops out. Anyhow,
yeah. I mean, so you've got that, and then you move into this, and there's so many things I want to talk about in this video.
Good. Go ahead. Talk.
You move into she's had the baby, and even that part's funny, and dealing with the baby, and you get all these close-ups of baby faces and the guy and all that. But then suddenly the baby's now a teenager, and she's in her bedroom, and what is on the wall? The single for Right By Your Side. And what does that mean? Why does this girl, why did they, of all the singles, I mean, it's not really, really prominent. The general public would have no idea what it is. There's no close-up of it. We know what it is as fans. We know it's the 7-inch of Right By Your Side is pinned up on her wall with all these other posters.
Mark, I'm going to have to admit, I don't think I ever noticed that.
You have it. Oh, look at this.
So all of the listeners out there who have been sending me a message saying, Rex, you really know your stuff about videos. Well, clearly not. I didn't know that.
Right.
Now I'm going to have to go back and look at it now, Mark.
Yes, go back there. And there's another single, and I'm not sure about this. I think it's an Adam Ant single. And they're sort of at the bottom, the big posters, and then down toward the bed in the middle. And there's Right By Your Side. And I'm just, so, what was someone thinking? What was Sophie Muller and Annie saying? Well, what are we putting on this wall? Hey, wouldn't it be hilarious if, is it an Easter egg? Is that what they call those kind of things? Well, let's just stick this here.
Easter egg is more hidden and you have to find it.
Yeah, I don't know. So, or whatever it would be called. But, but it's so funny, and they're having this big fight. And it's Annie plays two characters in that video. When there's the scene from Rome, and she plays the tourist in the background. She's got this, and she's got a camera in front of her, but she's playing this tourist. And that's the so cool thing about Eurythmics videos over the years, and even Annie Lennox videos, that she doesn't have to just play one character in a video. She'll play multiple characters. And it's such a short thing. It's just a few seconds that this tourist is in the background, and it's Annie Lennox all, dowdy and looking like a tourist or whatever.
That kind of reminds me of No More I Love Yous, where she plays not only the chanteuse, but herself as a little girl,
Uh-huh.
listening at the door or whatever.
I mean, and there's these great little moments that, and you get a sense. You can tell how much we love this video album because it's so much fun to talk about.
Yeah,
But
I know we're at 30 minutes and we're not even halfway through it.
sorry, yeah, we're talking too much. But you get this sense that she must have had a lot of these things. Clearly, are a lot of work, and you're probably doing this for hours, days. This isn't done in in a short amount of time. But you do get a sense that they have a lot of fun, and that
Oh, yeah.
somebody said, we need some tourist in the background, and well, Annie, we'll dress you up, and you can, there's a lot of fun there. But that's a hilarious video. It's just a great video.
I also find it interesting that when Annie plays the older mother of the teenage girl, she's got the Savage wig on and the leopard print T-shirt, kind of looking a little trashy,
Yeah.
deliberately trashy, and or a little low class, and I'm wondering if that's a comment too on maybe not and there are going to be many parents out there who are going to hear me say this and they might say, you know what, I did the best job with my kids and they were still rebellious. But my point is, maybe she wasn't the best mother in the video, which is why the girl's acting out. I don't know. I'm just looking at her appearance and I think she looks like not the most highly educated mama. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think it's a mom who's had a hard life. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
A great thing.
Whoops, sorry.
But moves into, do you want to break up? And that's very, very Sophie Muller, the bright white, when Annie's, on the bed. And then juxtaposition of when it moves into the color scenes.
Sort of like an off-kilter Sound of Music or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I believe the inspiration for this was, I think, her breakup from her first marriage. Mm-hmm. Because I believe they lived in Switzerland, from what I heard.
Oh yeah.
Sure. And I don't know if you've ever seen the Savage. It's like a promo folder that came out in Europe, and it has a photograph of a house on the front of it.
Oh, really? No.
I mean, there's a house, and so I don't know. I think it was about that. I could be wrong. That was not a good relationship she had. It didn't end well, and I think the video may have been made her comment or revenge on that.
Well, I mean, she often says, that a song may not be an exact commentary on something, but that there are bits and pieces to things in life that we would all do that's connected, and you do kind of think that. And I think the video is supposed to be the character who's in the bed and it's all white, and that she's dreaming all this stuff that's happening, and the clock is going, the cuckoo clock is going off, and of course Annie is dressed in the color section of the video in the Switzerland or whatever area, in the costume of the housewife, but her hair it's not so dowdy, and it's been puffed up.
Isn't there a flower in it too, or something, or a flower somewhere? Yeah.
And there was a great magazine cover, and I forget the magazine, but it's that character, and I'm thinking,
oh, she's picking the petals off the flower. Yeah.
Do you? And then again, kind of go back to the romance. Does he love me? Does he love me not? That kind of flower where you pick that off. At the end of the video, it's collapsing. The stage is collapsing. Things are falling down, and there are dancers. It does seem like I'm dreaming, and what the hell does this mean?
Right. Yeah. It's it's clearly a dream. And remember, they used some of those shots from her laying in bed in the black and white on the cover of some of the fanzines. Mm-hmm. I think back in one of the fanzines in the late 80s.
Yeah. And interesting.
I remember that famous photo of her laying in bed with like wearing the bra, and
Oh yeah,
I think it was all. I think it was all from maybe that photo shoot or that video.
it may have been. Yeah, I had not thought of that, but I think you may be right on that.
Yeah, but that's a great video, and it almost is. It almost strikes. It's almost like a bizarre Disney like a Disney video gone wrong or something.
And again, you're sitting there, and it starts out very serious and very, and then it moves into the other part, and again you're laughing.
Right.
This is a very strange and dark, some dark songs and some, not, I don't guess this song is particularly in the delivery of it, but then you're laughing. It's hilarious. You're having a great time watching this video album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one is "I've Got a Lover Back in Japan," and I think for me the theme of the video is probably the loneliness of touring, the loneliness of that kind of life on the road. There's that shot of her in full stage outfit, standing behind the glass in the hotel or wherever it is, and she's sort of like transparent, and she's against the glass, and she doesn't look very happy in the limousine, driving around.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that touring was hard on Annie, and I don't think it was her favorite thing in the world. So I think that's a comment on that.
I mean, and I don't think there's any, well, I've never thought there was any doubt. I think she's talking about her eventual husband, Yuri, who she met in Japan, who she met in all of this. And again, I don't think it's at all an entire commentary on that, but I think it's one of those seeds of inspiration. I'm writing a song, and she talks about that. But yeah. It was interesting, and I don't think I ever knew this until you said this a moment ago, that particular video is directed by a different person, and I think you said someone, and Jon Stewart. But yeah. You do watch it, and you get a sense that it was shot at a totally different time. Probably, I'm thinking, when they made the Brand New Day video.
Exactly. That's what I think, too, because some of the concert footage from that video is similar to the footage in the Brand New Day concert. So. And
it's such a specifically, when you think about this album, seeing those tour scenes, Annie and Dave, both in their black leather jackets and the full coats, and, so, this, we were very accustomed to the Revenge album and the Revenge tour that we got. We were very accustomed to the look of that, and you get that. And this again is the video is totally different than the rest of the Savage video album. Yeah. And I think that's because it was shot at a different time. Not only who directed it, but because when Savage was made, all of this Revenge tour and all that was already behind them. That was done.
Yeah.
So, and she's saying the words in that scene you mentioned. She's at the glass in a hotel room, high rise, and she's clearly saying those words. So I think this is a very early song that was created for Savage as well.
Yes, I would tend to agree, and I think that's interesting that you brought up that she met Uri and I don't know if it's Uri or Yuri. So if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sorry. That she met. Yeah, I had heard that they had met in Japan while they were filming that, and I also think it might also have might mean that, when you tour a lot and you tour worldwide, like they had been doing since the days of the tourists, it's possible she has a little boyfriend in one country that she only sees when she goes there. I mean, how life is. You meet people, and so there a little bit of that could be pining for somebody she misses. But yes, I do. I agree with you. I think it was kind of like post-Revenge. I think it was influenced by meeting her future husband and also about the rigors of touring and all that. I know she's retired from touring, and I think happily so.
Another interesting thing about that video is you get blink and you miss it segments from I Need a Man, Beethoven, and Heaven. Those three videos. Little snippets, why they're in this video, what was the reasoning for them to have these little snippets, I do not know. I don't know if it was simply to help connect it to the other parts of the video.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe it's meant to add some cohesion because, like you said, it may have been done after the fact, and
yeah,
to kind of bring it more in line with the themes of the video album, they might have done that. Yeah, it works.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely works, and it does bring continuity to it. So
So put the blame on me. I love that song. I know a lot of fans have kind of, some fans have thought, oh, that's maybe kind of like a towards the
yeah,
end of the album song,
I'm
maybe
trying
not.
to think of it as filler, and I don't think so at all. I don't.
No, I don't. I didn't want to say the F word, but yeah, filler. But
Well,
I don't think of it as all. I think it's a great song, a great dance song, and that vocal, where she screams, it's like it's so great. I mean,
yeah.
and then the video too. I mean, I always felt like I was putting on makeup when I was watching that video, because it's like there's makeup everywhere and stars, and it's all about, I think, artifice and dressing up and glamour and
Well, and two, I think this and the next song, the title track, "Savage." I like these two things because it's almost as if you're getting a strange making of the Savage album uh, in
right,
these two videos, because, like you just said, you get a lot of scenes of her being made up. The makeup artist is working with her, and and Savage is basically the photographer is shooting her in these iconic uh, photographs that would become iconic and used on picture sleeves and posters and the cover of the photographer's book. And so I love that about those two videos, that you get this behind the scenes, and that Sophie Muller said, "I'm going to use this, and we're going to use that."
yeah, and don't we? I think we even see Sophie Muller briefly in the Savage video. There's a shot of her, like, it looks like maybe she's fixing a scene or getting it right or something. It's very quick. Somebody in a big coat with long hair, and I always thought that must be Sophie. Could have been some assistant, I know, but who knows?
Yeah.
But yes, that's a good point, Mark, about how those two seem to be like sort of behind the scenes, making of, almost a little comment on that. It's almost like we get this little interlude in the video album where they say, yeah, we know this is a conceptual video album, but we also made it. And here's a little look. Here's kind of a little idea of how that happened or whatever.
Well, it is interesting to see those characters come to life and build, and all through Savage. It goes through several versions of the photography, all the way up to that really disturbing where the wig is halfway off her head and she's looking very distraught, which was a great promo poster, at least in the U.S. But man, that was again.
Yeah, that's a tough image.
Yeah, and you go. We've talked about this before. Seeing it, I always thought was just such a great image, but that was a tough image for the public. That was no easy scene, because this is a and she's dressed in this strange manner, and you just
and it plays off on the whole man dressed as a woman dressed as a man thing. I mean, she's taken, the wig is coming off and there's short hair. Oh, she's a man, but wait a minute, that's Annie Lennox. She has short hair anyways.
Yeah.
So there's so much going on there, but it is disturbing. It is a very disturbing picture, and I've actually had people say, "Wow, that's disturbing." I had it up for a while, and people would make comments like, you can tell they didn't really like it. I think it's brilliant. I love it. It's called art.
It is great. It is a great piece.
So, okay, next is "You Have Placed a Chill in My Heart," and we've talked about that, and that's Mark's lovely dog, which we are happy to have on the podcast.
Yeah, I wondered. Okay, sorry.
Which dog is that barking?
This is Jack, my puppy. He's about a year old.
Okay, so Jack is on the. So everybody say hi to Jack.
Yeah, sorry. I mean,
all three people that are listening, please say hi to Jack.
We're recording this from our different homes, and we can't help it. Rex has a cat. The cat doesn't make a lot of noise, though. So
no, but she comes in and out and jumps on me and jumps off and once in and out. So yeah. So anybody who has a cat knows how that is.
Yeah, we're not in a studio. This is we're we're at home and all of that comes with it.
We've worried about making our podcast 30 or 40 minutes, but I see lots of podcasts online that are 2-3 hours in length. So I don't think we have to worry so much if we have a 60-minute podcast.
Okay, but sorry about Jack. But maybe Jack just loves to talk about Eurythmics too.
Okay, well, he can listen. So You Have Placed a Chill in My Heart. Yeah, I mean, one of their finest videos. Again, like you were saying, she gets to play different not different characters, but different personas of the same character. I would think in this video. We in our last podcast about the videos, we talked about the fact that it was filmed in L.A. at a Ralph's supermarket, and I believe you said it was what town?
Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks, yeah. And we actually have a Ralph's close to us here, so every time I see it, I'm always thinking of that. I always thought, should I stand under the sign and just take a picture or something?
Rex, absolutely.
But I found it very interesting, that comment you made about the only time in Eurythmics videos where you ever see anything that would date it would be those girls' hairstyles that are standing behind Annie in the parking lot, which are so 80s.
And I totally think that's true. That and totally.
I think it's very important for artists to not have their works be dated. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that this is dated. I don't think it is dated at all.
Just
if you look closely at those women, yes, you can say, okay, it was filmed in the late 80s.
Uh-huh.
But is the video itself dated? No, I don't think so.
Well, it defies, all of this defies time. There is no time on it, but lots of great stuff. And it is, I think it was always considered Beethoven, I Need a Man, Chill in My Heart as a trilogy of videos. It was promoted as such.
Yeah, it was presented that way, yeah.
We knew that there was something else coming from that. To me, that's an essential Eurythmics song. It is the song, to me, from the album. Again, a track that as soon as the music, which is sort of churning, starts.
I love that. It almost sounds like someone's waving a piece of metal. That you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it sounds like thin metal waving. It was a groundbreaking sound at the time. I know other people have used it since, but
the volume always goes way up when this song will just come on my system or my radio, and if I have it on in the car or whatever. It's such a great song, such a great video, but it does complete it all. It completes that trilogy. It's got this, the housewife. It's got the tart character, for lack of a better word, and they all come together. And then Annie in a different mode as well. But
and I think she exercises her demons. She pokes away the vamp and she blows away the other one, and then she reunites with her love in the desert. And you know what I think is interesting about that is that the man's face is hidden. He's got his face buried, like in her arms, and you see her. The man is not shown except in that way.
But it is her husband. It's Yuri, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great sort of feminist kind of power statement. I mean, yes, she's Annie Lennox. She's the lead singer of the band. Of course, you're going to show her in the video. But it would have been easy to show the man's face too, but they didn't.
No,
they didn't, and I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's.
I want to say something interesting about that. You were mentioning about how it's a standout song and all that, and you always turn it up loud when it comes on. I remember playing the Savage album for a friend of mine back in the day when it first came out, and she didn't really react until You Have Placed a Chill. And when that came on, she lit up and she said, "Wow, that's a great song." And I thought, that's interesting, that the lay person would respond to that song, as opposed to the rest of this avant-garde album, So I think that goes to what you were saying. Yes, it's kind of the standout track, maybe the most commercial track on the album, and even though it's really not all that commercial. And I think it struck. I think that what that shows is, had it been promoted properly, it could have been a hit. Because people were responding to it.
Well, I think it goes back to that Eurythmics had turned into, by that point, very much of an album-oriented act. And because of the trilogy of the video concept, it had to be later released. But I do wonder if all things, if this had not been the case, and if it would have been a lead-off single, because it's a really strong radio. I think it's the strongest of the radio-friendly songs. But of course, it would not have made sense to have that specific video. But because of its how it had to be released, is in essence the last single in much of the world, and the second single here, although Beethoven and I Need a Man had some joint release on the 12-inch single, but both of those songs had been released on MTV here in the US at the same time. So it was, I do wonder, I think that's, the thing we'll never know, the unanswered question on if it had been released as a first single, would it have been more of a hit as a single? And I think it would have. That's just my thinking.
It certainly got a lot of MTV play, that's for sure.
Well, it's a great video.
That counted for a lot back then. I mean, a song might have not done so well on the charts, but if it got a lot of play on MTV, people still heard it and saw it. Mm-hmm. And so that was a good thing. Okay, so I Need You. 2 more videos, I Need You and Brand New Day. Well, I Need You, I think, is a brilliant song. If I were a radio person, I would have been playing the hell out of that. I don't think it's necessarily like a top 40 single, but I think it would work well on album rock radio and stuff like that. We were talking earlier about the brilliant lyrics she wrote on this album, and that song has some brilliant lyrics. Okay. I need someone to listen to the ecstasy I'm faking. Yeah. I mean, this is just there are songs you hear for the first time and right away, this is astounding. This is instantly classic. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that was a Eurythmics song that just was like that from the very beginning. It was like, wow, wow. I mean, those lyrics.
And the song is, acoustic, totally acoustic.
Yeah. After all that electronic, then we get this acoustic kind of organic sound.
Yeah, and the video really goes along with, how the song itself was produced. That you have audience background. And the look on Dave and Annie's face in the video. And it's supposed to be that they're performing this song, this really great song, but no one's listening to them.
Right.
If you're in those situations, we've all seen this. We've all been in a club or a restaurant where there's a singer. No one's paying attention to it. And quite frankly, I've always kind of felt bad for those people. Like, how do you do that? How do you go in and no one is paying attention to you? And it's that kind of thing. But who do we see in that video? Dave's son, Sam.
Sam Stewart, yes, as a little baby, yeah.
I'm not sure. I think Siobhan Fahey may also be in it. At one point, someone picks Sam up, the little boy. And I think it may be Siobhan. It could be.
Oh,
but he's in it a couple of times. He's at the front of the stage, and then there's one. He's at the back of the stage. Mm-hmm. And isn't that grand? Dave's first son. And he's very young at that point.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I mean, it's that whole thing about being ignored while performing. It's also a comment, I think, on maybe some of the stuff they've put out that has been kind of ignored too. Hence, Savage was kind of, Savage was, not, it wasn't ignored, but it wasn't the big thing that all their other previous albums had been. So I think there's a comment on sort of like unappreciated art. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just, and she looks great in that video. I love her little boots. And that was the classic Annie Lennox, late 80s look, mm-hmm. A great song, and cutting lyrics, and that, what used to get me too is that in the background.
Yeah. She was great with those kind of things, and always, throughout the career of Eurythmics, those additional noises that were vocals, and you see
there's also a moment in that song where there's like a sound of a crack, like a bang or a crack, mm-hmm. like somebody dropped a chair or something fell down during the song, mm-hmm. and it's right at a crescendo, I think, and it works so well. I don't know if it was intended, but it's just this kind of percussive sound that just kind of comes in, and it's just a one whack, but it's well placed, and I'm not sure if it was meant to, that was even meant to be, or just kind of came out that way. There's lots of little sounds in Eurythmics songs. Have you heard the sound of the door slamming in "Thorn in My Side"?
No, I don't know.
There's a sound in that song. I always thought, is that the studio door slamming? But there's a sound. There's a sound of a door slamming. It's very subtle in there.
Well, what did Connie Plank teach them early on? That any sound can work in music.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe there was. I don't know.
And then, you have, isn't there a little, at the end of I Need You, aren't there, you can hear conversations going on in the room? Or is that at the beginning of the song?
Both, I think.
Yeah. And at one point, it sounds like Annie's telling somebody, "You were hungry."
I think part of the conversation is Annie's voice.
Yeah, "You were hungry." And so what I'm taking that is somebody must have been, they must have been having hors d'oeuvres or something, and somebody really ate a lot, and Annie said, "Wow, you were hungry."
Well, maybe it was Sam, and he wanted his bottle.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. But it's just the little things like that, and then like in the beginning of is it Here Comes That Sinking Feeling, where you hear Dave and the people in the studio talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And somebody says, I need some more lead there, or something like that. And you just hear these little things, and it's just really interesting.
Very signature Eurythmics things sometimes, that these openings. And
well, we know Dave and his little tape recorder when he was a boy, we know all that. So,
but
so Brand New Day, the last song on the album, and what a beautiful video. It almost looks like a Christmas video.
Mm-hmm.
She looks so beautiful in that video, and so glowing, and
the suit on that blue background.
I think Rolling Stone, when they were reviewing the album, made a comment that, the album ends with Brand New Day, it's kind of trite, and heroine walks away with her head held high.
That's the exact word that was used, trite. Yes.
Yeah. And it was like, well, how do you want them to wrap this up? Do you want it to be wrapped up on a negative note? I mean, we need a feeling of hope at the end. I never got that. I always thought, what a cheap shot. It's like the character went through its journey of self-discovery and then came out okay in the end.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I think reviewers either got what Savage was all about as a whole, or they just simply didn't. And
the Rolling Stone review of Savage, the American one, is so like that, Mark. It's so like they don't know what to think of it, but they're trying their best to like make a good review,
Yeah.
And you're right. It's funny. It's like they didn't know what to think of it, and I think some critics thought, this is good, but I don't know what it means or what to say about it. So they just kind of did their thing. But
I should go back to that quote that I read from Annie. That is actually from Rolling Stone. I remember now. And so they had a little article about it. So they even were talking about it in the news section of the magazine.
Right. Do you remember the headline? Annie Lennox's Savage Women.
Yes. That
was what it said on the little headline for that.
This is okay, folks. Right there that is how big of a fan that Rex and I are, that we both can remember the headline from a Rolling Stone interview from 1987, and he's exactly right. That is,
and I can remember critic comments that pissed me off too.
Yeah, those stuck in our heart back in the day. Like, oh, that hurts.
Thank you, Chrissy Hine, for coming to her defense in Rolling Stone. We won't go into that whole thing.
We'll get to that later, but yeah.
But yeah, so no, Brand New Day. I mean, it's just a beautiful video. It's hopeful. It's uplifting. It's pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned. There's not a lot of
the little ballerinas, the little girls dancing, and there's a beautiful scene at the end where there's applause from the audience, and they all come out and are taking in, and people are throwing them flowers, and you see Annie there, and we know this later in her life, how much children has meant to her, and you just see her glowing, surrounded by these little girls. And you see Annie glowing, and you do get a sense that what motherhood was going to mean to her. And I don't mean to take this into some personal kind of thing, but I just think you get a sense of the woman there
Yeah. Yeah.
later on, you know.
You're right. That's exactly what it is. You do get a sense of the real woman there beneath all that artifice, that performance artifice. It's also interesting that we get the nice red curtain that closes at the end so elegantly, as opposed to the beginning of the video where it was whoomp, whamp, the things closing and opening very, very violently.
Yeah.
But
here's the other thing about the ending of that video album, where we get this song that has never been released in any other format and on anything. We don't even know what the title of that song is. I have always called it "Baby, Baby, Take a Chance on Me."
Right.
Baby, baby in parentheticals.
But I was just going to say it would be baby, baby in parentheses. Take a chance.
Yes, that's how I've done it. That's how I've always done it, because I do have an audio recording of it, and again, it's one of my favorites. And you hear part of the instrumental of that song at the beginning of "Wide-Eyed Girl," and then what a shock that was early on when we all watched this for the first time, and it ends. And it's this little 50s ditty kind of song.
Yeah. And you wonder, is it a cover? No, I don't think so.
I don't think. Well, it could be. I don't think it is. I think it's
if it was a cover, I think somebody would have found that out by now.
Yeah. Well, they would have had to have credited it. So I don't think so. So
maybe someday that track will appear on a like a Eurythmics B-sides CD or something.
So it is. I can see how when they were doing the remasters, it's probably not anything anybody even thought about, but it's this great little ditty, and it's 1 minute long on my audio recording of it. It's probably not any longer than that. It's probably the little bit that they recorded, and perhaps it was going to be used at the beginning of Wide-Eyed Girl a little bit more, and then they didn't use it, and they said, well, we've got this, what should we do with it? And we'll use it in the credits. I love that.
So Dave, if you're listening, we want that one put out at some point, please.
Whoever's listening that can do it. In
fact, we're going to have a whole podcast just for Dave on what we want released.
I mean, it is. This. I have no doubt whatsoever. If record company, whoever it is, would release this, fans would buy this. Absolutely would buy this, and the Eurythmics Live too. But I mean, of all the things that fans would like, because you can go and see all these videos on YouTube, and most of them are really bad quality.
Right.
And so this deserves, let's just say it, this video album deserves a proper modern release. However it would be done, I don't care. I wouldn't care if it's just streaming. I would accept that. I'd love to have a physical copy of it, of course. But we know how it needs to be preserved. It shouldn't be lost to time.
Yeah, Sweet Dreams, Eurythmics Live, Savage, We Two Are One Two, Peace Tour. It all needs to be on Blu-ray. It all needs to be high definition. I'm sure it will be eventually. We'll probably be close to 70 by the time that happens, but by that time there'll probably be something other than Blu-ray. It'll be something different.
Yeah, it'll be the new thing. But well, okay, the puppy is calling me again. Jeez. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, we've reached the end of our Savage video album discussion, so I think we'll kind of wrap it up here. But Mark and I really enjoy talking to each other, and that's where this podcast thing sort of came from. We thought we'd share the conversations that we find stimulating with others, and it turns out that I guess some fans think that we have something interesting to say, so that's great.
And we do. I guess this is the first podcast since we actually released them for public consumption, and so I do. Yeah, I think it is obvious, isn't it, that we love talking about this stuff, and I
hope people enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoy listening to ourselves or talking to ourselves. I have to say, I re-listened to our podcast, and I thought, wow, I thought. We were so worried that we would sound weird or not sound good, but I think we sound okay.
Well, we should say that we've had a lot of good comments from people. I think a lot of people have, a couple of folks have commented that you and I both have accents. I thought my accent maybe, but I wasn't sure about you, Rex. I don't know what your accent is. I know what mine is, but in any event, we've had a lot
I
of.
just have a slight American Southern accent. What do I have? I just have an American. Well, I guess to people in Europe or Britain or whatever, or Australia, maybe. I guess it does sound like I have an accent.
But hey, that's what part of what we want. We want other fans to be on our podcast, and hey, everyone can come on with whatever accent they also have.
Right.
But we have a lot of
nice. To that, we're getting together with some fans soon and recording new podcasts on different subjects. So that'll be coming soon. And like we mentioned before, we hope to get some of the Eurythmics players involved, like maybe Jonice Jameson and Jimmy Z could do a podcast with us. So we'll see. But we're just having fun with this, and we're just putting the podcast out there, and building a library of Eurythmics podcasts is probably not a bad thing. So
yeah. Well, we appreciate all the nice comments that we've had, and
yes.
and a lot of people have said they'd like to be involved in future podcasts, and so that's really nice. And so we do invite people to discuss this even more, and talk about these things in comments where we have them posted, and we want to know what other fans think. It's not just about what Rex and I think, but, what other things that you might be thinking of.
I don't know if you heard that. I just took a couple of screenshots of you and I. I thought it would look good, and we can maybe post that at some point.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
we both look so good and happy. I thought people might want to see what we look like.
So we do see each other. So if this was a video, what would it be called? A video cast or something?
Video cast. Yeah, maybe we can do that at one. Maybe if we can get one of the Eurythmics family members to join us for a podcast, we can do it as a video one.
Well, all right. Well,
anyhow, I think we'll end this podcast for now. So thanks, everyone, and thank you for listening. And we'll be back with more
next time. See ya.
All right.